Some minds operate just beneath the surface, in those quiet spaces that most of us tend to overlook.
We see a pause, and we assume it's uncertainty. We hear a lack of words, and we think it's disinterest.
But what if that quiet moment isn't empty at all? What if it's actually full? Psychology suggests that's the very space where new connections are being made, where consequences are carefully being weighed. See, many of the most profound cognitive processes just don't announce themselves. They're revealed through these subtle, silent behaviors that are so easy to miss if you're not looking for them. So let's explore these quiet markers.
This isn't really about being antisocial. It's more about cognitive efficiency. For a mind that's wired to analyze and connect, small talk can feel like static on the radio. It's just noise that drowns out a meaningful signal. It takes a lot of energy to filter, for very little data in return. Long after a conversation is over, the real analysis begins. The mind goes back, revisiting words, tone, and body language, not out of anxiety, but to find the deeper meaning that might have been missed in the moment. It's a search for the real message hiding just beneath the surface.
And what's really interesting here is that this tendency to replay conversations, it comes from a powerful drive for pattern recognition. This kind of mind is constantly scanning for consistency in arguments, in behavior, in data. And when a piece of the puzzle doesn't fit the pattern, it stands out immediately, just demanding to be understood.
So why does this happen? Well, because for this type of mind, socializing isn't passive at all. It's an act of intense data processing. You're analyzing verbal and nonverbal cues, you're predicting responses, and you're managing your own output. That high cognitive load is just incredibly draining.
Now, this isn't cynicism, it's more like an intellectual reflex. Beliefs are treated like hypotheses that need to be tested, not facts that are just blindly accepted. The mind automatically runs them against everything it already knows to check for validity, always seeking a more accurate model of the world.
While a lot of minds are focused on the immediate reward, this one is playing chess, thinking several moves ahead. Every decision is like a node in this vast tree of future possibilities, and the mind is constantly trying to map out the most logical path forward. And this brings us to another key marker, actually enjoying solitude. For a mind like this, solitude isn't loneliness. No, it's a necessary environment for deep thought. It's kind of like closing all the background apps on your computer so the processor can finally tackle a complex problem without any interruptions. This can be one of the most isolating parts of it all. When you've considered an idea from so many different angles, your final thought can seem simple, even obvious. But other people, they haven't seen the complex scaffolding you built behind it, and that can lead to this profound sense of disconnect. So we've seen these markers, but what's the underlying psychological machinery that's driving them? Let's take a look at the core concepts. The first key is something called metacognition. It's the ability not just to think, but to think about how you think. This is the engine that powers the replaying of conversations, the questioning of your own beliefs, and that constant search for a more accurate understanding. This really says it all, doesn't it? It's like an internal observer, constantly monitoring, evaluating, and refining your own mental processes. A quiet, persistent editor of your thoughts. And the second key is high cognitive reflection. This is the habit of pausing, of suppressing that intuitive gut reaction answer, and instead engaging in a more rigorous, analytical thought process. This directly explains why this kind of mind notices contradictions and focuses on long-term consequences instead of short-term rewards. It's a deliberate choice for depth over speed. And these aren't just abstract ideas. Neurologically, these traits are linked to greater activity in the brain's default mode network. That's the system that's active during internal thought, self-reflection, and future planning. It's basically the brain's own private workshop for deep thinking. So the crucial takeaway here is this reframing. What the outside world might label as social awkwardness is actually a preference for depth. What looks like overthinking is really just high cognitive reflection at work. That mental exhaustion isn't a weakness. It's a sign of deep internal processing. And what appears as aloofness is simply a fundamental need for solitude to think.
The most significant work is always done beneath the surface, in the quiet, unseen spaces of the mind. Ultimately, these behaviors are not flaws that need to be fixed.
They are the signatures of a mind that is constantly working to understand the world on a much deeper, more connected level.
If you want to understand more about the psychology behind quiet minds, feel free to subscribe and we can continue the deep dive.